Mochi Health is here to help you start your weight loss journey with caring, personalized support. Meet one-on-one with board-certified obesity doctors and registered dietitians who truly listen and understand your unique needs. Eligible patients can access affordable GLP-1 medications delivered right to their door each month. No insurance? No problem. Mochi Health accepts FSA and HSA, making care accessible and affordable. And with 24/7 customer service, you'll never feel alone on your path to better health. Get started with Mochi Health today. Take the free quiz at joinmochi.com and use code AUDIO40 at checkout for $40 off your first month of membership. That's joinmochi.com with promo code AUDIO40.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 210 of the True Crime All the Time Unsolved podcast. I'm Mike Ferguson, and with me, as always, is my partner in true crime, Mike Gibson. Gibby, what's going on with you?
I'm doing good, Mike.
Are you?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Let's break that down. You did start off with kind of a semi-Australian accent.
I sure did.
And then, no, that was not. Then you just went full Beverly Hillbillies or something. I don't know what that was.
I did something. I know. I can't control it.
You can't control it. But we are going to Australia.
We are.
To talk about the Somerton Man in this episode. Before we do that, we have our Patreon shout outs. So let's give those. We had Amanda Bailey.
Hey, what's going on, Amanda?
JR.
Good old JR.
Jen Sullivan.
Hey, Jen.
Courtney Wessels.
What's going on, Courtney?
Maureen Gardner.
Hey, Maureen.
Shelby Feller.
Hey, Shelby.
Haley Mills.
What's up, Haley?
Mario Ramirez.
Hey, thanks, Ramirez.
Why, Granny?
I don't know, but Granny just hang in there.
Kylie Wright.
Hey, Kylie.
Penelope Curtis.
What's going on, Penelope?
No name.
Just zero name.
Zero name.
Okay.
It's not even no name. There just was no name.
Yeah.
So I'm giving a shout out, letting somebody know they put in no name.
Yeah.
Kelly Capps.
Hey, Kelly.
Bobby Simmons.
What's up, Bobby?
Susan Dunn.
She's done. She's out of here.
Peter Fort.
What's up, Fort?
Jocelyn W.
Hey, Jocelyn.
Allison Smith.
Oh, hey, Allison.
Amy.
Good old Amy.
Lauren.
Just Lauren.
Tess Demena.
Hey, Demina.
Brad Chafin.
What's up, Brad?
Kippen.
Good old Kippen.
Sarah Strauss.
Hey, Sarah.
Lynn Allen.
What's going on, Lynn?
And last but not least, Jacqueline Richardson.
Well, hello, Jacqueline.
So we appreciate that new support. And then if we go back into the vault, Gibbs, this week we selected Kate Massey.
Good old Kate.
Been with us a long time. You got a lot of good olds tonight.
I do.
We had some great PayPal donations as well from Sue Lewis.
Hey, Sue.
Judy Larson.
Appreciate that, Judy.
Kelly Duncan.
Hey, founder of Dunkin' Donuts.
My daughter's favorite place.
Yeah.
Dunkin' Donuts. And Linda McLean.
Well, appreciate that, Linda.
Gibbs, we have a lot out right now. On True Crime All the Time, we have an episode out on Jerry Buck Inman. You know, this was a guy who did quite a bit of time in prison.
He did.
For some horrible acts. They let him out. And of course, as soon as he got out, he kind of picked up right where he left off.
He did.
Stalking women on college campuses and sexually assaulting them, and then eventually graduating to sexual assault and murder.
Yeah.
But it's a good episode. Go check that out. We also have a new Patreon only episode that dropped Friday night. It's on the murder of Suzanne Capper, and we're headed to England. This was an extremely rough case.
It's tough, man. Really tough.
It really was. She was murdered very close to the same time as James Bolger.
Yeah.
Little James Bolger. So her case didn't receive quite the attention that the Bolger case did, but it's horrific. And it kind of was really rough on you and I.
It was a tearjerker.
It was. All right, buddy. Are you ready to get into this episode of True Crime All the Time Unsolved?
I'm ready.
I already mentioned it. We're talking about the mysterious death of the Somerton Man. When police were called to the discovery of a body at Somerton Beach, South Australia, on December 1st, 1948, at 6:30 a.m., no one knew. They stumbled upon what would become one of the strangest and most enduring mysteries the continent had ever experienced. Still today, after more than 70 years, the case remains a mystery and remains unsolved. The body of an unidentified man was lying against a seawall at Somerton Beach, across from a home for children with disabilities. With his legs stretched out and feet crossed and a half-smoked cigarette on his lapel, the man appeared to be sleeping. And Gibbs, this is most likely why really no one paid much attention to him at first. People used to sleep at the beach all the time. Multiple witnesses reported seeing the man lying in the same spot the previous evening, including jeweler John Bain Lyons and his wife. They came across a well-dressed man lying on the beach while they were having a stroll at the seaside as the man extended his right arm upwards before letting it fall back to the ground. Lyons thought he might be drunk and failed in an attempt to smoke his cigarette. Just a half hour later, another couple noticed the same individual dressed in a suit lying on the sand, surrounded by mosquitoes, not making any effort to try to get rid of them. The couple thought, okay, this was a little bit weird, but decided the man was probably sleeping. It wasn't until the next day that it started to become clear that something was wrong. John Lyons was returning from his morning swim when he noticed a commotion. Walking closer, he saw the same individual from the night before, still in the same exact position. The man he thought was most likely drunk was now very much dead. Constable Moss and Detective Strangeway were first on the scene. They examined the contents of the man's pocket. They found an unused rail ticket from Adelaide to Henley Beach, a bus ticket, a narrow aluminum comb, a half-empty packet of chewing gum, an Army Club cigarette packet containing cigarettes of another brand called Kensitas, and some matches. But there was no wallet, no cash, and no ID.
Looking a little bizarre.
It is. I mean, you're finding some things, but you're not finding the things that you need, right, to help identify this person. 3 hours later, the body reached the Royal Adelaide Hospital. The time of death was put no earlier than 2 a.m. that morning of December 1st by Dr. John Barclay Bennett, who suspected the cause of death was most likely heart failure, but noted that he also suspected poisoning.
Ah, here we go.
You had like a little Agatha Christie moment there.
I did.
Like you just solved the case or something.
Exactly. As always.
The man was dressed neatly in a white shirt, brown trousers, socks, and shoes. His tie was red and white, and he wore a knitted pullover with a gray American-style brown double-breasted jacket. It was found odd that none of the man's clothing had name tags. And actually, not only that, but all the labels on his clothing had been neatly removed.
Getting more bizarre.
Now, to me, Gibbs, I find it odd that people thought it was odd that there were no name tags on his clothes. But, 1948, I do think back in the day, people used to put their name inside their jacket, their shirts, different articles of clothing.
And growing up, my mom put our names on everything. She took that black magic marker and she put our initials on everything we wore.
Well, that's because you had a habit of running outside through the yard and taking all your clothes off.
Well, that's true too.
And going Tarzan through the neighborhood.
Nothing like your white tidy whities with your big initials on them, and going to gym class and,
People seeing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to watch out for those white tidy whities. An autopsy revealed that the mystery man was fit. He was 40 to 45 years old with a European appearance, 180 centimeters or 5'11" tall. His eyes were gray and his hair fair to ginger colored with slight graying around the temples. He was fit, Gibbs. He was said to have been in excellent physical condition, but it was also noted that he was an extremely heavy smoker.
Well, it was 1948.
And just about everybody smoked in 1948. I think some people thought it was good for you back then.
Have your cup of coffee and your cigarette before you get your day started.
Like it curbed your appetite.
Yeah.
I don't know. He was broad-shouldered with a narrow waist and showed no signs of being involved in any type of physical labor. His legs, especially his calf muscles, were very well developed for someone of his age.
We hear that about your calf muscles all the time.
Yeah, I do have big calf muscles for whatever reason. They've always been like that. I don't really work out or anything. So
that's true.
I don't know what that tells me or tells anyone. Meanwhile, his toes were oddly shaped, and it was suggested that this guy had a habit of wearing high-heeled, pointed shoes.
That's a way I'd never want my feet to be described.
As though you wore high-heeled, pointed shoes.
Yeah.
I mean, you do, you just don't want to be described that way.
Exactly.
I get it.
Exactly.
I get it.
Yeah.
It was also speculated that the mystery man had ridden horses, or even that he had been a ballet dancer. So, okay, maybe that comes from the calves. Maybe that comes from the oddly shaped toes.
Sure.
Being squeezed into some ballet shoes. I really don't know where they're getting some of this stuff. I mean, that part wasn't really fully explained. I mentioned that the doctor had a suspicion of poisoning, and it was supported by findings of unusual or smaller than normal pupils, and the fact that there was a dribble of saliva running down the side of the man's mouth, suggesting that he had been unable to swallow it. The man's spleen was firm and large, about 3 times the average size, and his liver was swollen with packed blood.
Not a good sign.
I don't think any of this sounds good. In the stomach, pathologist John Dwyer found remains of the man's last meal, which was a pasty type of meat pie, but there was also blood in the stomach. Despite all the signs of poisoning, repeated tests failed to reveal any trace of poison in his blood, organs, or the food in his stomach. Dwyer later said that he was astounded that they couldn't find anything. In fact, the definite cause of death was never found, and the body was embalmed on December 10th, 1948. So, they went through some things here in 1948.
Yeah.
There was police work going on, but they were left mostly empty-handed. Investigators tried their luck by sending a complete set of fingerprints taken from the corpse throughout Australia and other English-speaking countries, hoping they would get a match, but nobody could identify them. Now, again, we're talking 1948 here.
Yeah.
This is not terabytes of information being analyzed in a computer. This is, hey, we're mailing these, I guess, around the world, and somebody is using a magnifying glass,
going through some index cards
to compare these fingerprints to things that we have on file.
Yeah.
I don't know how they solved the damn thing back then.
I think there's still somebody in some basement somewhere, like still going through it. They're like, all right, I'm almost done.
Yeah.
Finally, I'm getting there.
It really is, when you think about it, almost unbelievable that they were even able to solve crimes.
Yeah, it's true.
Because you think about the technology that we have today, and we still struggle to solve a lot of crimes. We have many, many unsolved crimes. Some people came forward because they saw published photos of the man and they thought he looked familiar. And some people who had a missing relative came forward because they thought that this person might be them. But again, nobody recognized the body itself. And without the proper identity, the deceased man became known as the Somerton Man.
And so the legend begins.
And that's how it happens. After going through every possible lead they had, without success, the South Australia police finally had a breakthrough. On January 14th, 1949, a brown suitcase was recovered from the coat room of Adeline Railway Station and was believed to belong to the man found dead on the beach. The suitcase had been deposited in the coat room on November 30th, just a day before the body was discovered. The case contained a pair of red slippers, a coat, pajamas, a red dressing gown, shaving gear, a screwdriver, a stenciling brush, and a table knife. A reel of orange thread was the key to linking the suitcase to the Somerton Man. It was the same kind of thread that had been used to repair the dead man's trousers. But once again, identifying marks had been removed. There were no stickers or markings on the case, and the label was torn off. The tags were missing from almost every piece of clothing, with just one remaining, with the name T. Keene on a t-shirt. So, investigators had to be pretty excited.
Oh, yeah.
They finally had something that they thought could help in identifying this man. Okay, maybe his name is T. Keene.
Yeah.
We got to vet that out. But the excitement over the finding was short-lived when investigators realized that there was no T. Keene missing in any English-speaking country. It's also interesting that they could figure that out with no computer database or, how do you know that in 1949? And how do you figure that out?
And who's doing all that research back in those English-speaking countries? Are you sending it to one place and they're spreading it out through all the...
How?
Yeah.
That's why I really want to know the mechanics of how it's done, because without even national databases, how are you figuring it out from country to country?
Yeah.
So without that, okay, do you have to call up Waterloo, Iowa and say, hey, do you have anyone that's missing by the name of T. Keene? And then every city in Iowa, every city in every state in the United States. I really don't understand how you do it.
Yeah, maybe they're just reaching out to the FBI and Canada, the same counterpart there. And
yeah, maybe. But
England
again, as far as I know, there would be no complete compiled list in 1949 by country. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there was. I'm just not aware of it.
Well, if there was, I'm sure it wasn't.
The accuracy has to be in question.
Exactly.
Let's put it that way. Police concluded that someone might have left the tag on purpose, knowing that T. Keene was not the dead man's real name. The coat found in the suitcase was stitched in a way that was unknown in Australia. A tailor identified the stitch work as definitely being American, but this didn't produce any more leads either. At this point, authorities privately doubted that the Somerton Man case would ever be solved. However, they were just about to find the most baffling clue that would make the death at the Somerton Beach one of the most intriguing mysteries in the world. The police brought in another expert, professor of pathology, John Cleland. When he re-examined the body and the dead man's possessions, Cleland made an odd discovery: a tiny pouch sewn into the waistband of his trousers. Everyone else had missed it. It's often been referred to as a secret pocket, but of course it might have just been intended to hold a pocket watch. Inside, there was a tightly rolled scrap of paper that had been taken from a book. The paper had only 2 words on it, Tamam Shud. This phrase, meaning ended or finished, appears at the end of the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam, a book of Persian poetry written in the 11th century. This work had become popular in Australia during the war years. Police immediately began to search Australia-wide for a copy of the book with a similarly missing or torn page that matched the piece in the dead man's secret pocket. A picture of the scrap was also released to the press. And I think to everyone's surprise, Gibbs, the search for the right Rubaiyat actually produced results. A Glenelg man appeared to the detective office in Adelaide with a copy of the book and the strangest story. He and his brother-in-law had gone for a drive in a vehicle he kept parked a few hundred yards from Somerton Beach early the previous December, just after the discovery of the Somerton Man. A copy of the Rubaiyat had been found on the floor by the rear seats by the brother-in-law. As each man thought that book belonged to the other, it got forgotten, tossed into the glove compartment. The 2 men had returned to take a closer look after they saw a newspaper article about the search. They discovered that a portion of the final page, as well as Khayyam's final words, had been ripped out.
That's a good lead.
It's a good lead. It's also, I don't want to say it's a needle in the haystack, but it is kind of amazing that, who knows how many copies of this book are floating around, even in Australia. And somebody remembers the fact that they saw it, they go and check it, and boom, they find the right one. But then you have the mystery of it didn't belong to either of these men.
Right.
So the mystery is, how did it end up in this guy's car?
Yeah.
Detective Sergeant Lionel Lean examined the book carefully. Almost immediately, he discovered a phone number penciled on the back cover. Using a magnifying glass, he observed the faint impression of some other text written in capital letters beneath. So, again, really seems like making some big-time progress in this case.
Definitely some potential.
The letters were in 5 lines, with the second line being crossed out. Now, this thought that maybe this was an error because the 4th line appears to be very similar but has more letters. And the letters seem to be in completely random order. So a lot of people believe that this is some type of a code. The first line reads WRGOABABD. The second line is MLIAOI. The third line is WTBIMPANETP. The fourth line is WLIABOAIAQC. And the last and fifth line is ITTMTSAMSTGAB. So it doesn't mean anything to me, obviously. Doesn't mean really anything to anybody else because nobody's ever cracked or deciphered this. If it is some type of code.
I figured it out.
You did?
Yeah.
While I was reading it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Bread, milk, butter, fat-free milk. And no, I don't have it.
Oh, you got the first 4 but couldn't get the last one? Well, I think part of the problem, Gibbs, is deciphering a text so short, pretty tricky.
Sure it is.
And there has been a lot of effort in trying to decipher it over the years, but the message remains a mystery. But the phone number found together with the mysterious code was a real existing number that belonged to a young nurse named Jessica Jo Thompson, who lived near Somerton Beach. When questioned, she requested to not be publicly linked to the case, as for some reason, she thought it would be embarrassing or harmful to her reputation. The police agreed, and she was known for a long time by a nickname, Jestin. Thompson admitted to giving a copy of the Rubaiyat to a man she had met during the war. She even had a name to give to detectives, Alfred Boxall. The police were sure the mystery of the Somerton Man was finally coming to an end. The only problem was that Boxall was alive and well, living in New South Wales, and still had the copy of the Rubaiyat that Thompson had given him, its last page intact with the words Tamam Shud still in place. Boxall said he had no knowledge of the deceased man and had no contact with Thompson after 1945. So what was a very promising lead kind of fizzled out.
Yeah.
And once again, investigators were really no closer to identifying the dead man of Somerton Beach.
Slightly disappointed, I'm sure.
I'm sure they were very disappointed because I imagine there was a ton of pressure to solve this case.
Yeah.
The detectives who interviewed Jo Thompson noted that her behavior was pretty strange. She seemed very reluctant to participate in the investigation of the case. She was very curious when she was shown a plaster cast made of the unknown man's upper body. And I guess, Gibbs, it was noted that she was shocked to the point that it looked like she was about to faint.
Yeah.
When she saw this plaster cast, which was strange because over and over she claimed not to recognize the Somerton Man. Thompson later died in 2007 without ever revealing if she knew more about the case and who the mystery man was, taking any secrets that she might have had with her to the grave. Gary Feltus wrote a book about the unknown man, and he interviewed Thompson's daughter, Kate, who said that the family believes Thompson knew who the Somerton Man was. The Somerton Man was buried at Adelaide's West Terrace Cemetery in 1949. Flowers started to appear on the grave at varying intervals.
Craving your next action-packed adventure? Audible delivers thrills of every kind on your command, like Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir, where a lone astronaut must save humanity from extinction, narrated with stunning intensity by Ray Porter. From electrifying suspense and daring quests to spine-tingling horror and romance in far-off realms, unleash your adventurous side with gripping titles that'll keep you guessing. Discover exclusive Audible originals, hotly anticipated new releases, and must-listen bestsellers that hook you from the first minute. Because Audible knows there's no greater thrill than the one that speaks to you. Discover what lies beyond the edge of your seat. Start your free 30-day trial at audible.com/WonderyUS. That's audible.com/WonderyUS.
Years after the burial, police questioned a woman who was seen leaving the cemetery, but she said she did not know the man. When the coroner of South Australia published the final results of his investigations in 1958, he admitted they didn't know who the deceased was or even how he died. Now, not sure why it took 9 years to publish the final results, but
it seems like a very long time.
It does. But over the years, there have been a lot of different theories about who this mystery man was and what happened to him. One of the most popular theories is that the Somerton Man was a spy. Okay, let's dive into it. He was found with no identification, all the labels removed from his clothes, and of course the cryptic letters that were found on the back of the book. If the Somerton Man didn't hide his identity himself, it's possible that someone else did to hide who the man was and ensure that his death would never be solved. The cause of the man's death also indicates that possibly this case was something else, more than just I don't want to say a regular murder or suicide, but original examiners were so sure about him being poisoned. There were a number of signs leading to that conclusion, but because the toxicology test didn't show any substances, they couldn't rule it as a poisoning.
Yeah, to them, it was just really a theory.
Many theorized that the Somerton Man's murder was carried out with such skill and with poison that left no trace, that it had to have been done by professionals. Maybe the mystery man was a double agent whose betrayal had been discovered by either Eastern or Western intelligence. His exposure could have caused so much damage that it would have made sense that they would have stripped him of all identification after he was killed. And then obviously you have the book, the code. I mean, these are elements, Gibbs, that make this story seem like it jumps straight out of a James Bond movie.
That's what I was just thinking. This is like a 007 movie.
And you're really talking about 5 lines, 50 characters in total, that has caused endless debate for over 70 years. And still nobody has solved the mystery.
It kind of reminds me of the Zodiac letters, how long that people work to crack those.
Yeah, I get the connection there with some of the Zodiac ciphers. You know, both amateur code breakers and cryptologists have attempted to figure this out for a long time. There's always the possibility that the letters have no meaning at all, just a series of unrelated letters, but that doesn't fit with the mystery, right? You want to believe, Gibbs, that there's a code in there somewhere.
Yeah.
And if we could just break that code, we could figure everything out, right? That's what happens in the movies.
Yeah. It's what you want. You want it so desperately. I put random numbers and letters in all my books just for this fact alone.
Just in case somebody would take an interest in your life or something strange would happen to you, and then it becomes a big mystery.
Exactly.
Okay. I got that. Some strange foreshadowing, but I get it.
Yeah, sometimes you have to do that.
It's definitely interesting that the message was placed on the pages of Rubaiyat, of Omar Khayyam, a book that kind of shows up multiple times in this case. It's possible. And I think a lot of people have put forth the theory that the book was used as a cipher. It's a very common spy technique used for many, many years. It's worth noting, Gibbs, that Boxall admitted in the 1970s that he was involved in intelligence during the war. And Thompson's daughter, Kate, has stated that she believes her mother was a Russian spy. So, I mean, I think that's where a lot of the spy theories come in. In 2013, on the Australian TV show 60 Minutes, Kate said she had a dark side, a very strong dark side, adding that her mom stated she knew who the Somerton Man was, but wasn't going to let that out of the bag, so to speak. And Gibbs, it's not just this spy angle that people think is a possible link between the Somerton Man and Joe Thompson. Derek Abbott, a professor at the University of Adelaide, believes that he's close to identifying this man who died so long ago. According to Abbott's theory, the Somerton Man and Thompson had an illegitimate child together, which could easily be the reason why she didn't want to admit any connection with him. Thompson's son, Robin, shared the same distinctive features as the Somerton Man. The upper hollow in their ears was larger than the lower, and they had canines positioned right next to their front teeth. And I guess, Gibbs, it's been reported that these features are hereditary and they're very rare, appearing in just about 1% or less of the population. So if Abbott's theory is correct, it doesn't just mean identifying the Somerton Man, but also fills in part of his own family tree. You know, while he was investigating this, Abbott got to know Rachel Egan, Joe Thompson's biological granddaughter. They got married and they have 3 children together. So, you know, if his theories are correct, if they're proven correct, Somerton Man would be his kid's great grandfather.
How interesting is that?
A big step was taken when South Australia's new Attorney General, Vicky Chapman, opened the door to exhume Somerton Man and extract DNA that could finally solve this 70-year-old mystery. However, she said there was a condition that the cost of retrieval be privately met. Okay, I don't know how much that costs, but I'm sure it's not cheap to exhume the body, do all the relevant necessary DNA testing.
Right.
Abbott has said that crowdfunding is a possibility. He's also said that he hopes if the DNA doesn't match with his wife, Rachel, it could eventually lead him to somebody else who is related to the Somerton Man and is alive today. Rachel Egan is equally determined to solve the mystery and has said she essentially thinks about the Somerton Man every day, wondering about the truth. Could he be the answer to questions their children have about their family history?
Definitely intriguing.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I mean, I think it's just one aspect of why so many people are interested in this case. You've got the potential spy aspect.
Sure.
You've got, this DNA exhumation. Can we get to some answers that way?
I mean, if you think about it, if he does turn out to be related to her, then it tells you a lot more about her grandma. And then you can wonder if some of those stories that Kate said about her mom are actually true.
Have a little bit more validity. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could help fill in some things for sure. Just this past week, according to Daniel Keane from the Australian Broadcasting Corporation, the remains of the mysterious Somerton Man will be exhumed pretty soon by police in the hope that DNA samples could solve the case that has baffled detectives, researchers, and amateur sleuths for more than 7 decades. And Gibbs, Derek Abbott, and Rachel were both excited by the development. He said, "I knew it would happen one day." He even recently commissioned a virtual reality artist named Daniel Voshart to come up with new artistic renditions of what the Somerton Man may have looked like when he was alive. Abbott told Daniel Keane that while exhumation would potentially help solve the mystery, he accepted that there were no guarantees. He did say, "We're not talking about the type of DNA that's used to catch criminals. This is the type of DNA that's used to identify somebody's genealogy." He said, "To make it clear, normal criminal DNA tests use something like 23 markers, whereas this one, we're using 800,000 DNA markers. Should we find it through the exhumation, we can potentially find on genealogical databases his cousins and relatives and bring him back to his family." Okay, those are big numbers.
It's a huge amount of numbers.
If you're saying normally it's 23 and now we're doing 800,000, I mean, this is not us. This is a quote from an interview that Abbott did. Seems like a lot.
It's like, hey, man, I think I can save you a little bit of money if you just use 23andMe.
So Gibbs, I think as everyone waits for this exhumation to happen, people are going to continue to speculate. Who was the Somerton Man? Why was all of his identification missing? The labels, the name tags on his clothing ripped off? Was he a spy who was exposed, caught, and terminated? Or was he a secret lover who died just 5 minutes away from Joe Thompson's house? A woman who allegedly later had his son. I think there's even a question by some if the Somerton Man was actually murdered. I mean, we mentioned it, right? For the longest time, all the evidence pointed towards poisoning, but there are other theories suggesting that, maybe this man just died on the beach, drunk, whatever, in the wrong position, and died from something like positional asphyxia, where someone passes out in a position that doesn't let them breathe. I mean, if it was something like that, then it was just a sad accident with some very mysterious clues that kind of made the whole world perk up and take a look at this case and view it through the lens of this unbelievable mystery.
Yeah. I mean, if I go out as an accident, that's how I want people to be like, it's no accident.
Yeah. No, I get it.
We have to figure this out, and let them just for the next 100 years wonder.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, even with the exhumation that we would ever know all the details, right? Surrounding what happened. What if it turned out that was the case? There's no big mystery. This guy died on the beach, and the letters in the book, the fact that his labels and name tags were ripped off, it's just all coincidental.
Yeah.
Well, for mystery fans and armchair detectives, that would be a huge letdown.
Well, sure it would.
Because I'm sure there are people that have spent years or parts of many, many years kind of delving into this case, and they know it backwards and forwards, and they have their theory. And I know Derek Abbott doesn't believe the man was murdered or was a spy. He told Daniel Keene, you can explain any weird thing by saying he was a spy, but you don't have to be a spy to be secretive. I think, Gibbs, for me, however this thing turns out, there's no doubt that the Somerton Man mystery has been and still is right now one of the most baffling cases in not just Australia, but the entire world. And it's one that shows that life can be stranger than fiction.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that. But you're right. And Abbott's right too, right? I mean, you could just associate without any part of this by saying that's because he was a spy.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about some of these cases. Anytime you have things that are strange, things that you can't make perfect sense out of, then you can really kind of put them in any box you want to. You can put them in the spy box.
Yeah.
You can put them in, another box, or you can put them in the box that just says, okay, all coincidental, doesn't have anything to do with why the man died, and he wasn't even killed. So, but it's what makes a good mystery.
Well, it does. It makes a really good mystery.
If you and I could sit here and work it out together, it wouldn't be the Somerton Man mystery that has survived for 70 plus years.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that book was very popular back in the time, like they said. So I'm not surprised that there was several copies out there. I think it could just been a coincidence that that piece of paper came from that book. Maybe he just needed something to jot some stuff down, and he ripped that last page out thinking, who needs this?
Well, I get that, but the stuff he wrote down doesn't make any sense. So mysterious.
It is.
Of course, you write a lot of stuff that I say doesn't make sense too. So
Every day.
I don't know. I don't know if we'll ever get the answers. I hope we do.
I'd be curious to see, if, we hear that they're going to do this process of exhuming the body, getting the DNA, but how long could that possibly take? Might not be until the end of this year before we hear anything back, if that.
Yeah, I don't know. And I don't know when they'll do it.
Yeah.
And how long the testing will take and all of that. So, yeah, we'll see. Something to keep an eye on.
For sure.
But it's interesting that there's recent movement, very recent things happening in a case that's more than 70 years old. But that's it for our episode on the Somerton Man. We've got some voicemails, Gibbs. You want to check those out?
Love to hear voicemails.
Hey guys, my name is Ksenia and I am from Russia. I just wanted to tell you that I really enjoy listening to your podcast and exactly how you go into details and feelings of and emotions of people involved in that. And I noticed that in one of the voicemail you said that you wanted to cover the stories from Russia, but you're having a hard time finding out the pronunciation and stuff like that. So if you want me to, I would love to help you out with that because I know some stories from Russian criminal history are just crazy and I would love to hear them covered. So thank you so much. I hope to hear from you soon. Bye.
We like Russian.
Is that our first Russian call?
It is our first Russian call.
I think it is.
Yeah.
So in a separate call, she left me her information.
Okay.
So I have it.
Yeah.
And I really do, Gibbs, want to try to tackle a Russian case because she's right. I mean, they have some of the, not strangest. I mean, they got some macabre, really brutal murderers. She's also right that we'll have a hard time with the names. As
Guaranteed.
We have a hard time with names in our own home country.
Yes.
So going to Russia is not going to be a walk in the park for us.
Right.
But, awesome that people are willing to offer their help. And we've taken that offer up a number of times.
We have.
When we've gone outside of the United States, and it's worked out pretty well.
So be ready to do one for us.
Hi, Mike and Gibby. This is Katie Ruff from Kansas City. And I was just calling in to say hi and thank you guys so much for all the content you produce. You guys have actually helped me to keep my New Year's resolution going. 4 months later? Because my resolution was to meal prep and just eat better. And so I do that every Sunday, listening to your guys' podcast. Usually takes me about an hour. And your guys' episodes are about an hour. So it's literally perfect. And then in addition to that, whenever I can't fall asleep at night, I'm up to date on all the episodes. So if I can't fall asleep, I just listen to Gibby's soothing voice to help me fall asleep at night. But yeah, thank you guys so much for always being respectful and giving all sides to the cases that you present. Yeah, thanks. Also, I had to say I am Team Gibby. Sorry, Mike. I have my own Gibbyism, so I'm a little biased. But yeah, keep your own time ticking, guys. Thanks. Bye.
Love it. What I don't get, Gibbs, is people saying they fall asleep to your voice. Your voice is great.
Yeah.
It's very soothing.
Yeah.
Some episodes you talk more than others.
Yes.
So, there are some episodes where I'm trying to coax you into talking, but you don't talk a lot. So I don't know how people are falling asleep to some of those.
They're fast sleepers.
They're fast sleepers.
They're like, okay, here it comes.
Or every time they hear that right, they're like, oop, I'm out.
Exactly. Right. Absolutely.
Right.
Hi, my name's Natasha White. I am calling you from Craig, Colorado. I actually had an unsolved case. It's the Marie Blee case. She's been missing since 1976. I don't know a whole lot about it. I just remember seeing all the flyers around town. I know that it's been a pretty big case. Her parents have moved from Hayden, Colorado to Grand Junction, as far as I know. And they, every year on her birthday, put a letter in the newspaper, still trying to find her killers. I think this would be an awesome case, if you wouldn't mind trying to cover that one. Also, I'm a huge, huge fan. I just started listening a couple of weeks ago. I think I'm on episode 150 of True Crime All the Time, but keep your own time ticking and God bless. Thanks. Bye.
Man, you're making some good headway.
Yeah. Making a lot of progress. Now, when she said it was an unsolved, I thought, okay, I'll put it on unsolved, but, might take a while for her to hear it.
Yes.
If she's going to wait until she gets through all the TCATs before she jumps over to unsolved.
Right.
But it does sound like an interesting case,
Sure
one
does.
that we'll check out.
Okay, Fergie, you made me feel bad. This is Ida Mae from Texas, and I'm listening to one of y'all's earlier podcast episodes in 2018, and I just got a voicemail, and the lady was like, you set Gibby up to be a good guy, whoop-de-whoop, and you were like, it's always Team Gibby. So even though I am Team Gibby, I tell you what, I'm going to convert to Team Mike just because I love you and you are loved by all of the T-Cat family. So go Team Mike, Ida Mae from Texas. Sorry, Gibby, you got enough of people. I got to have his back. I'll go back to your team next week. Keep y'all's time ticking, y'all. Bye.
Ida Mae cracks me up so much. So I get her for a week.
Yeah.
She's on my team for a week, but then she's going back.
I'm willing to wait.
No. Hey, you got so many people, man.
No.
I think you can wait it out.
They all love you, man.
Yeah. I don't even know how the whole thing started because it wasn't that way in the beginning. At some point, the Team Mike, Team Gibby thing, and we liked it. We enjoyed it. And
yeah.
Now, obviously, the numbers have been very, very skewed, which, but I always thought part of that was because I gave you such a hard time.
Sure.
Early on in the podcast, we kind of had this shtick where I would point out your Gibbyisms, and I think that's endeared you to so many people because, okay, let's face it, all of us have those type of things that we say.
Right. Well, I think if people watch the Patreon only episode, they're going to see a very endearing part of Fergie,
a different side of Fergie.
We'll definitely have people saying, "We're team Fergie."
Because I broke down and cried like a little baby.
No, you just, I mean, it was, it was touching.
It was. Yeah, well, it was hard. It definitely was. All right, buddy. That's it for another episode of True Crime All the Time Unsolved. So for Mike
and Gibby,
stay safe and keep your own time ticking.
How much is an hour of your time worth? Whether you're a realtor, lawyer, accountant, or even a content creator, Stamps.com gives you the ability to focus your time on what you do best, not on tedious mailing and shipping tasks. Print stamps, shipping labels, or certified mail forms in seconds. More than 4 million customers have relied on Stamps.com to make their lives easier. Go to Stamps.com/audio for a special offer. No contract, cancel anytime. That's Stamps.com/audio.